Have you ever wondered how the most unstoppable army in history suddenly just stopped? At its absolute peak, the Mongol Empire was a terrifying juggernaut, a force of nature that swept across Asia and into Europe. Everyone expected them to finish their so-called world conquest, but they never did. The story of why is fascinating because it reveals that even the mightiest empires have a breaking point. And for the Mongols, it wasn't a rival army that defeated them, but something much closer to home. Internal politics and nature itself. By the middle of the 13th century, the Mongols had crushed empires from China all the way to Eastern Europe. They had sacked Kiju, obliterated Polish and Hungarian armies, and stood at the doorstep of the Holy Roman Empire. Many in Europe genuinely feared they were about to devour the entire continent, and maybe even Africa next. But then, almost as quickly as it appeared, the shadow of the Great Khan began to retreat. So, what happened? Why did they turn back when Europe seemed theirs for the taking? The answer is a powerful mix of succession crises and geography. You see, the Mongol Empire had a critical weakness built into its political system. Every single time a great Khan died, first Genghis, then his son Ögedei, and later his grandson, the entire conquest machine had to grind to a halt. Mongol law, known as the Yasa, required all royal princes, including the generals leading the armies at the frontiers, to return to the capital. There, they would hold a great council called the Kurultai to elect the next leader. These elections were not quick, simple affairs. They could drag on for months, sometimes even years, as different factions vied for power. This process created massive power vacuums and completely stalled military momentum. Imagine you're a general on the verge of conquering Vienna, and you suddenly get a message that you have to ride your horse thousands of miles back to Mongolia for a political meeting. That's exactly what happened. The pause gave their enemies precious time to regroup and rebuild. But politics wasn't the only factor. Nature also played a huge role, especially in the European campaign. After the death of Ögedei Khan in 1241, the Mongol forces under Batu Khan and the brilliant general Subutai had to withdraw from Hungary. Recent studies of tree rings from that period show that 1242 brought a sudden and severe climate shift. An exceptionally cold and wet spring turned the vast Hungarian plains, which the Mongols needed for grazing their tens of thousands of horses, into a giant, impassable swamp. Without enough grass for their horses, the core of their military power, the Mongol army couldn't sustain itself. They couldn't feed their animals, and they couldn't move their cavalry effectively. Ultimately, the empire just became too big to manage from a single center. After Möngke Khan's death in 1259, the internal divisions became permanent. The empire fractured into 4 separate successor states: the Khanates, the Golden Horde in Russia, the Ilkhanate in Persia, the Chagatai Khanate in Central Asia, and the Yuan dynasty in China. These new empires soon began fighting each other more fiercely than they fought the outside world. So, in the end, the Mongols didn't run out of enemies. They ran out of unity and favorable weather.